I got another random thing to talk about. Taxes. All right, so I talked to people about taxes before, said how there are ways to lower and mitigate your taxes for your income. One way that I talk about that I'm truly a believer in, that I do myself and I suggest for other people to do as well, is to have a business. You know, whatever that thing is that you do for people that you can quantify on paper to be a business, do it. Start it as an LLC. And then you can have the home-based write-offs for your LLC to help mitigate your tax burden. So I did a consultation with a client a couple weeks ago where he's getting close to the tax deadline, because we all know tax deadline's coming up, right? Or passed. Yeah, it passed. I think it's the 15th. Anyway, they need to get their tax done. And I said, hey, did you do that stuff I told you about? And they said, what? No, I didn't do it. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to tell you. I was like, well, tell me quick, because tax time's coming up and you need to hear this info before the time comes so you can get your paperwork together. Either way, they got their paperwork together. We had a consult. We did a Zoom call. It took about an hour. I explained to them all of what they could look at and reference to show them what they could write off for having a home-based business. They didn't understand the concept of how to quantify those expenses and use them as write-offs, which is all written in the tax code. I showed them from the IRS website. But then they did that, right? How about I followed up with them a week or two after and said, hey, you know, did you get your taxes done? How'd everything go? They said, oh my gosh. They said, Josh, that information you told me was golden. They said, I ain't got a tax return in like 5 years, at least. Never got a tax return. And then they said, you told me to start an LLC like a year ago. I started. Now I quantified the stuff you talked about, because we talked through what kind of things they didn't consider or understand or know was an expense. And I said, well, yeah, go ahead and quantify it. Write it down, keep a log, keep it tracked. Go check your bank account, your business bank account, your checking account. Get those receipts, get that stuff. Boom, you got quantifiable expenses. Lower that tax burden. They did all that. They took some training courses. They did some other stuff for their business. And they didn't understand how they could write that stuff off. So we talked about it. They did it. They wrote it off. They said this is the first time in 5 years they didn't owe to the IRS. And some people, you know, there's people out there that say, well, everyone should pay your fair share, pay your taxes, blah, blah, blah. Listen, people, it's freaking written down in policy and code. There's a tax code for a reason. It is a legal law that you can follow and abide. Now, the government's not going to tell you what to do with it. They're just going to write it. You got to read it and interpret it for yourself and then apply it. But there's savings out there that you could be taking advantage of that you're not, because you just don't know. And this just randomly came to my head too, because I was like, dang, I did talk to another person the other day that told me about what they did. And this is the first time in like 5 years they didn't owe to the IRS, because they did a couple things and set themselves up. So, I mean, I'm just saying this to encourage some people. If you have not started an LLC for a business that you have, please do so. There are funds out there. There are grants available. There are different business supplementation and grant programs and other things of that nature that are there directly to help you. But guess what? They can't give it to you. You know why? Because you're not incorporated on paper. They have to have the documentation to show that they gave it to an official entity. And if you are not an official entity, they cannot give it to you. And to me, I think it's pretty sad, because there's people out there missing out on stuff that they could have money in their hands to help them grow and expand their businesses, and they can't, simply because they won't start an LLC. That's done with that rant. That's it. Bye.